Welcome. Welcome to this morning's session of 20 in for 20 in 2020. This is a series that I have recently started where I will be asking 20 professionals to questions about their practice, and I will be covering this in the year 2020. I will be speaking with attorneys, accountants, financial advisors, the kind of people you want to choose to help you with the important decisions you make in your life. So that's why I've started this. And today, I want to introduce myself. I'm Ellen Newman, a trusted insurance advisor with the Norton Advisory Group, and I help people find effective solutions to various components of their lives as well, in terms of estate, business succession, retirement, and long-term care planning solutions. And I just want to mention that at the end of the program, I'm going to be talking to you about the possibility of doing a fiduciary insurance review, so stay tuned. Today, our special guest is Justin Brown, a partner with Troutman Pepper's office in Philadelphia, and he's in their estate tax, trust administration, and estate litigation area. I met Justin at an event that Pepper Hamilton was hosting in New York City. And that's when he and I got a chance to start talking about things relating to our mutual clients. And we've kept in touch ever since that time. Since then, this past summer in July, his firm merged with Troutman Sanders, and now they're Troutman Pepper. And he is servicing clients throughout our area, and he has an outstanding background, including his credentials include being a member of the American College of Trust and Estate Council. Anyway, with all that, how are you doing today, Justin, at this busy time?
I'm good, Ella. How are you doing?
Great. I know we're in the midst of a pandemic and you're busy juggling work, family, and all that. I know that's quite the challenge. So I thank you for taking the time today. And we're going to get started on our question and answer series that I've asked you to be part of. And again, thank you for participating.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So the first question is, what is the primary focus of your practice?
So the primary focus of my practice is on estate planning, estate administration, and trust administration. I primarily work with small business owners to plan their estates, to minimize estate taxes and any inheritance taxes, and to develop any kind of business succession plans that they need in order to move their business on to the next generation. I do a lot with estate administration, so administering estates after somebody's passed away, and trust administration, so the trusts that are created as a result of somebody's death or trusts that are created during somebody's lifetime. And an additional component that I've added recently is digital assets. I do a lot of work with digital assets, digital planning, and working with individuals to transfer their assets or plan for their digital assets.
Well, that's a very unique and important part today. Now, what led you to this career path?
So I was a math major in college, and you typically don't see attorneys as math majors. But I've always liked math. I come from a long line of CPAs in my family. The period from January through April 15th has always been a very stressful time in my family, and I did not want to be a CPA, but I had the math background. So when I went to law school, I took a trust and estates course, loved it, took an estate tax course, loved it, and decided to go that path. I like working one-on-one with individuals. And I like working with numbers to figure out how to solve the problem. Numbers tend to intimidate a lot of attorneys, but I've always enjoyed it.
That's terrific. I was also a math major before I became an economics major and went into finance. So I totally relate. And my husband had a CPA background, so I know all the things you're talking about. So thank you for sharing that. Now, how did you get to work at this particular current firm you're involved in now, which has evolved?
It has evolved. So when I joined Pepper Hamilton before the merger, it was just the right situation at the right time. I was looking to grow from the position that I was in. Pepper had and continues to have a great trust and estates practice, a great corporate practice, and it was just a much broader practice area for me. And then with our merger in July, we've grown from about 450 attorneys to 1,100 attorneys. So we have definitely expanded and increased our footprint in the legal market.
Wow, that's great. Now, what would you say have been some of the highlights of your career?
So one of the things that I think is a big highlight for me is something that you mentioned, which is becoming a fellow in the American College Trust and Estates Council. I became a fellow last year, and it was something that I had always wanted to do. So I really enjoy being a fellow, going to ACTEC events, having the lively discussion with my fellows. And I really enjoy it. I think another highlight for me is that I just finished up last year my year as chair of the probate and trust law section of the Philadelphia Bar Association, and I was one of, if not the youngest chair in the history of that old section. And old meaning it's the oldest bar association in the country, and it's one of the oldest sections within that bar. So I follow in some great footsteps, and to be chosen by my peers, both as chair of the section and as a fellow at ACTEC, it's a great honor for me.
Well, that's fantastic. And I am familiar with ACTEC because when I was a private banker, I used to attend their meetings, and they are really phenomenal, and the people involved are amazing. Now, what type of clients do you tend to work with?
I tend to work with all types of clients. I think my sweet spot is probably the higher net worth clients and business owners, closely held business owners, so that we can do that business succession planning. We can prepare clients for a liquidation event if they go ahead and sell their business. One of the things that we try to do is we try to get to clients, business owners, early in the process. Oftentimes people will come to us when they have an agreement of sale in place and they're ready to sell their business. And what we would love to see is getting to them 2 years in advance, so that we can really do some great estate planning for them, get assets out of their estate before a liquidation event.
Mm-hmm. Right. And as you know, that's something that we like to work on with our clients as well. And if we could get a 5-year or longer window, that's even better to know what they're doing. Absolutely. Now, what are some of the problems or issues that you really get involved in with these clients?
So it's really wide ranging. One of the things that I've learned is every client is different, and every client is unique, and every client has their own unique estate planning issues and their unique estate administration issues. When I started my career, I did solely estate administration. I didn't do any planning at first, and I really got to dig my hands in and see that estate administration involves everything. You could have a real estate issue, you could have a corporate issue, you could have an IP issue, you could have a litigation issue. It's not just it's never just a straightforward administration. And with estate planning, it's the same way, right? You've got clients who've got corporate issues, you've got clients who've got family issues. Family relationships are always unique. There's no two clients who have the same family relationship. And I think a lot of what I do sometimes is counseling clients and advising clients on interactions with family members, or um, uh, in addition to planning for their estates. So I always tell people that I do proactive lawyering. Most people go to a lawyer when they have a problem, when there's an issue and they go to the lawyer to fix that problem. Um, Oftentimes clients are coming to me because they don't know that they have a problem, and I can fix that problem before it becomes a big problem. My dad has always said to me, I can fix almost any problem that you tell me about. And it's the same with my practice. I can fix almost any problem in advance for a client if we get to it with enough lead time and they disclose everything to me. So I really enjoy the proactive lawyering side of what I do.
That's terrific. That makes a lot of sense. Now, when you're working on an estate plan, what goes into your process?
So a lot of people think that estate planning is just forms, and it's just completing forms. And I have a set of forms that I duplicate for every client. And I think nothing could be further from the truth. The estate planning process is a highly customized process for clients. Again, every client is unique. And while we may have a form that we start with, no two clients' wills or trusts look exactly the same, because there is always things that are done specifically to address the needs of clients. So um, I have a lot of conversations with my clients. We do a lot of discussions over initial questionnaires that I send to them, and discussing tax consequences, both state and federal tax consequences, reviewing documents, re-reviewing documents. It is a, I would say it's a long process, but it depends upon the client, but there's a lot involved in the process. Mm-hmm. I would say it's a labor intensive process, because there's a lot of communication with clients during the process.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's important to know. Mm-hmm. And how would you assist a client in funding assets into their trusts?
So we create a lot of trusts either during lifetime or at death. Mm-hmm. And we will help our clients in whatever way that they need our help. Some clients are very independent and mm-hmm. want to do it all on their own. Some clients want our help. So we work with financial advisors to help transfer assets, choose which assets should be transferred, what the best assets are if we're doing charitable trusts, what assets are the best to transfer to the charitable trust. Working with tax advisors, accountants, CPAs, whoever it is, insurance brokers if we're putting life insurance into a trust. So we truly believe that a client has a team of professionals around him or her, and there are team members who are going to spot things that not every team member is going to spot. So it's always great to have the team members working together.
Right. It's great to work collaboratively that way. Now, do you actively help them execute their plan?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We whether it's trust funding or executing estate documents, we always help in the execution of estate planning documents. I think the pandemic has made that challenging, but we've come up with some creative solutions and circumstances to get around the social distancing requirements. But I think it is so important to be actively involved in the execution of a plan, from beginning to end, from initial discussions to execution to funding to post-funding, and then administration of the plan, right? A lot of times attorneys will draft documents for clients, and then after they sign the documents, the clients sign the documents, they send the clients off, and they're off on their own. I don't think that's the way to do it. I think the way to do it is they sign the documents and then we help them with the administration. A lot of these clients have never administered a trust before. They don't know what to do. They don't know what tax returns need to be filed. So anything that we can do to help them and hold their hand, if they need it, is something that we're always very happy and willing to do.
Well, that's very important. I think that's great. Now, do you also provide formal updating, reviews, and maintenance programs?
So we do. I wouldn't say that it's a formal program, but we are constantly in contact with our clients. We are always sending our clients news alerts as they pop up. If there are changes in the tax laws, if there are changes in any laws that we believe may impact them, we send client alerts on a very, we're trying to send our client alerts on a very frequent basis, and we'll see how successful we are. But I think one of the things that we do is we really instill in our clients the need for the idea that estate planning is not a one and done thing. Estate planning is an evolving process. It is highly unlikely that the will that clients execute with me is going to be their last will. And it's more likely that they're going to be signing more wills, more trusts in the future. And what I do is I always tell clients that you want to be looking at your estate plan whenever you have major happenings in your life, whether it's births or deaths or marriage, divorce, an influx of money, a deflux of money. Anytime when you have these major things happening in your lifetime, you always want to be looking at your estate planning documents to make sure that everything is up to date. And on top of that, what I do is I always set a 5-year tickler for my clients so that 5 years from the date of an execution of an estate planning document, my clients should be expecting a call from me, an email from me, a letter from me if I haven't spoken to them within that 5 years, just to check in to say, hey, how are things going? Just want to make sure everything's going well. Want to see if anything new has happened, if there are any changes that we need to make to your estate plan.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent. You sort of answered my next question, but if you want to add to it, is what's it like to work with you initially and in the long run?
Well, I hope my clients would say that it's good to work with me, both initially and in the long run. I think one of the things about what I do is that it's about relationships and forming relationships with clients. And very frequently, the relationships that are formed with clients are relationships that continue past the execution stage, I'll say. And it's getting to know clients and being a trusted advisor for clients. And I think what I enjoy most about doing what I do and meeting with clients and seeing people is knowing that these people are trusting me and putting their faith in me as a trusted advisor, so that if something pops up in the future, whether it's an estate planning issue, whether it's a corporate issue, a real estate issue, a litigation issue, it's very frequently the estate's attorney who they will go to for direction as to where to go and what to do.
That's good. Yes. So now the question is, how do you determine your fees, and what would that include?
The question that everybody loves to answer and ask and nobody likes to answer. So we bill on an hourly basis, as in many estate planning attorneys. We do it hourly. We don't do flat fees. And I think that oftentimes will motivate some clients to take a more active role in their estate planning, which is a good thing. It is something that nobody likes the fee conversation, but it's a necessary evil of what we do.
Right, agreed. What are some of the experiences you've had in mitigating or dealing with estate taxes?
So one of the most interesting parts of what I do is, as I mentioned before, is working with business owners to minimize estate taxes and get appreciation out of their estate before or at the time of a liquidation event or before a liquidation event. And I think with estate planning, it's always great to see that client where you've done the planning, they've gotten to you 2, 3, 4, 5 years in advance. You've prepared everything and you've gotten assets out of their estate at maybe a discounted value, and then they have the liquidation event and you see all of your work that you've put in coming to fruition and seeing that appreciation out, and really passing it on to the next generation. So I think seeing our clients passing their wealth to the next generation and putting them on a better footing than they were on, it's a great feeling to see that progression and throughout a representation of a client.
Right. Well, that's very clear. What do you include in creating an estate plan, wills, trusts, life insurance? What is that about?
So I will always, the typical package that I typically do would be a will or a revocable trust, a financial power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney, and a living will. One of the things that I do is I look at their life insurance needs. I'm not a life insurance professional, so I'm not selling or advising people on life insurance, but I'm frequently working with life insurance brokers, advisors, people like yourself who are more experienced in various planning techniques and can have a better conversation with clients over what their life insurance needs are, what some planning strategies would be around life insurance. It is important for me to also look at the holistic estate plan, right? There are probate assets and non-probate assets, and I can create the most complicated will in the world and do everything that a client wants to do, but if all their assets are non-probate and pass outside of the will, then the will is meaningless. So I look at the non-probate assets also. I look at beneficiary designations. I look at titling of assets, and making sure that everything, the whole plan, is working together and it's not just a piecemeal plan.
That's a wise approach. And we do look forward to working with you on those life insurance components and reviews that you do. Now, what are your views on revocable living trusts?
So it depends. The typical attorney response. I practice primarily in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, which are both jurisdictions that probate is relatively inexpensive and relatively straightforward. And there is very little court intervention in the probates in those two jurisdictions. That's not the case in every jurisdiction. And there are definitely jurisdictions where probate is expensive and probate is time consuming and probate involves court intervention. So I think it depends upon the client. I think it depends upon where the client is, what jurisdiction they live in, and what their specific needs are. When I do revocable trusts for individuals in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, I'm doing it for one of a number of reasons. Maybe they want privacy in their estate plan. Maybe they are elderly and they have an incapacity which is more likely than not to come about, and we want a smooth transition of assets if they become incapacitated. Maybe they have assets in multiple jurisdictions and we want to avoid an ancillary administration. Or maybe with COVID, probate has become more and more difficult. Virtual probates have become more and more difficult. And we just simply want to avoid that difficulty and do some type of revocable trust. But my feeling is that revocable trusts are great estate planning tools, but they're not perfect for everybody. And I think it depends upon an individual's situation before in customizing their estate plan.
That makes sense. What other issues do you address?
So part of my practice as I mentioned before, I handle clients with digital assets and digital planning. I co-host a podcast, Digital Planning Podcast, which is available on iTunes. And it has really gotten some traction, and it's a fun area of the law because it's so new. A lot of people don't know what to do about their digital assets, or a lot of people don't even know that they have digital assets. I mean, I would say 3 years ago, if I was speaking at a seminar and I asked how many people have digital assets, maybe a quarter of the people in the room would raise their hand. Now, at least people are understanding that information on your phone is data and digital assets that we need to account for when we die or become incapacitated. What happens to my email account? Who can access my pictures? Right? It's not just Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Digital assets is so much more than that. So I do a lot of work with digital assets. I do asset protection work for clients. And as I said before, estate planning is such a broad area that it includes so many different things and the interaction of various areas of the law that impact a specific client. So it's great that I get the opportunity to kind of dip my hands into a lot of different areas and maybe sometimes be the quarterback of the estate plan with other attorneys who are involved handling discrete issues.
Well, I'm going to look into more about those digital assets. It sounds fascinating. How long will it take you to complete an estate planning project?
Oh, that depends. I think estate planning is one of those things that a lot of people put off. There are many people out there who don't want to deal with estate planning and are scared of estate planning. So it's one of those things that people always put off to the side, say, I'll get to it later. So it depends upon the client. We have done incredibly quick estate plans. And I've got one client who's going on 3 years for executing documents because we just can't finalize everything. So it's a broad range, but it depends upon the client and what the motivation of the client. I can go as quickly as somebody needs if they're willing to do it.
That makes sense also. When do you send the estate planning documents to the client to review?
So my process is I typically have an initial conversation with clients, just overview of estate planning, very broad overview of estate planning. I typically then send them a questionnaire they complete, send back to me, and then I will go over the questionnaire with them, talk into great detail about their assets, their plans, their intent, what they're looking to do in the estate plan, looking at the global plan, understanding everything about the client, formulating ideas for drafting documents. So that meeting can be quite long sometimes because there's a lot involved. And then I go back and draft documents. And then after we draft documents, it's that point where we then send the documents to the client to review, make any comments, make any changes. And that's what I think when we have this a greater exchange, when it's pen to paper and people see, okay, here's what the plan actually looks like. So I try to send the plan out, the drafts out as quickly as possible. It doesn't always work that way, but that is the goal.
Okay. That's, again, very helpful. In terms of if somebody is working with you, who in your office would discuss the client's issues in your absence?
So we have a rule of two in our firm, in our department. And the rule of two is that any estate planning document that goes out the door has to be reviewed by at least two attorneys. That could be an associate and a partner. It could be a partner and a partner. But we always have two attorneys who are familiar with the documents and are aware of what's going on with the client case. Now, that is incredibly important because we don't want to be in a situation where something happens to one of the attorneys and we have no idea what's going on. So the rule of two helps with reviewing documents, but it also helps with better servicing the needs of a client. On top of that, I would say my assistant is incredibly helpful in understanding what is going on with every client and being available for every client. My assistant is truly the oil that keeps the machine running. And to have a great assistant is huge in running an estates practice. So I'm very fortunate.
All right, that sounds terrific. Hopefully she or he will stay with you forever.
And I'll make sure that she sees this so that she knows it too.
Oh, that's great. Good planning. Okay, well, we're up to our last question, which is, what can you tell us about yourself that we cannot find out on the internet?
So when I was younger, I did a lot of circus. My specialties were vaulting, where you run down a runway, jump on a trampoline, and do various flips over a vault with other people, flying trapeze, and juggling. So
Wow.
I'm still a good juggler. My vaulting and flying trapeze are probably those skills have probably gone down considerably. But it is something that I hope to teach my kids at some point. I'm trying to teach them to juggle unsuccessfully. My hope is that in a few years they'll be able to juggle, but we'll see.
Well, I know your kids are young, so give them some time.
Yep.
I'm sure they'll get there. Well, thank you for sharing that. That was interesting. Well, Justin, this was absolutely terrific. We really got an opportunity to learn about you, your practice, your firm, your clients, the whole nine yards. Now, tell the audience what's the best way to get in touch with you so that they can follow up with you.
Yeah, the best way to reach me is by email. It's especially during the pandemic. It's by email. My email address is justin.brown@troutman.com, justin.brown@troutman, TROUTMAN.com.
That's terrific. Okay.
And Ella, thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it.
This is great. I just did promise everyone that I would mention something important about insurance. We're in the fourth quarter of this year. We know there's going to be a lot of possible changes in the coming year and a lot of factors. And if they have not reviewed their own insurance in the last 3 or 4 years, it is really important that they have someone review it, someone like my firm. So if they'd like that, we're offering a complimentary review of their current insurance and discussion. So they need to reach out to me at ella@nortonadvisorygroup.com, and I will be happy to set up a virtual appointment with them. And in the meantime, I'm hoping to welcome everyone back to the next 20 for 20 in 2020. And I will see people on LinkedIn, which is where I will be posting this. And I want everyone to go to your website and my website to learn more about our background and the firms we're with. So you'll learn more about Justin and myself. And in the meantime, I want everyone to be healthy and stay safe. And don't forget to vote. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.